All right. Welcome. Thank you everyone for attending. This is a great turnout. I just have a few slides, so I'm going to keep it pretty brief tonight, but I will definitely be available for questions. We have a lot of experts in this room as well, so now's a great time to ask questions. And we're definitely open to additional feedback. I know a lot of you had an opportunity to look around and leave dots or stars. There is this board over here, so if after you hear the presentation, if anything is jumping out at you, you can leave Post-its on the board with additional written comments as well. If anybody in the Zoom wants to leave any comments in the chat, we'll definitely make sure to record those as well. If you don't mind clicking on the next slide, please. So on our presentation today, I'm just going to cover what is a comprehensive plan, what the history of comprehensive planning in Canadice has been, what our current plan is. I'll go over these survey results in a little bit more detail, and then kind of what our next steps are. So a comprehensive plan is a 10-year planning document, and it's really the essential foundation upon which communities are built. It guides our governing bodies, and it takes into account a wide variety of topics, including social, environmental, and regional concerns. Some of the reasons why it's important is that other government agencies, such as county or state government, must consider a town's comprehensive plan when proposing capital projects. So I know that that's something that came up in the survey, is concerns about county and state overreach or government projects. So anything that is important to our community, this is an opportunity for us to put that in writing. It's also an opportunity to express budget and capital planning priorities. It's a great opportunity for municipalities to be more competitive for grant applications. So that's a really important piece as well. It also makes communities more resilient. So understanding land, water, and weather, including extreme events, makes our community more prepared and able to respond and recover more quickly in the event of emergencies. So planning should be proactive and not reactive. Like I just said, it's important to have plans for when things do go wrong and how we're going to react and how we're going to recover. It's a written expression of the goals of our municipality and how we are going to achieve them. It's an outline for orderly growth, providing continued guidance for decision-making for our town board, for our planning board, for our zoning board of appeals. It's a document that focuses on some immediate, but a lot of long-range areas that we want to protect, areas that we want to encourage development or growth in. Careful planning and zoning creates a safer community for all of us. And maintaining essential functions is really the core of government. So the historical perspective is the first initial comprehensive plan was started in 1991 with a survey of residents. The plan was developed. It was approved by the town board in 1996 and then revised again in 1999. The next plan update, the process was initiated in 2009. So after that 10-year planning period, the property rights were definitely a hot button issue, reviewing some of those documents. And it was stated that mapping was one of the most difficult parts of the process. So the current plan was adopted in February of 2015. The sections, I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at them. The sections are existing conditions, development trends, and projections. So there's a lot of great data in there about housing, data from the census. There's survey results and issues. We'll dive into those in more detail. Opportunities and constraints for our community. And then the sections that we are going to be tackling next are going to be our assumptions, goals, policies, as well as our implementation strategies, and then adopting and maintaining the plan. The current plan has a number of appendices, including a lot of these maps. So our current team started meeting in January of 2024. We have a contract with Ontario County Planning Department for technical assistance. They've helped us with a lot of the census data, as well as the mapping. Thomas Lyon is here from Ontario County Planning Department if anybody has any questions for him. All of our agendas, meeting minutes, and all of our meetings have been recorded. They are all available on the website. We're also recording this presentation tonight, which will be available for viewing later as well. So our survey results. For me, when I took on chairing this committee, one of the things that was really important to me was community engagement. Speaking with Linda Phillips in the Ontario County Planning Department before we started, she said that, you know, there can be a lot of different goals for updating your comprehensive plan. And our community, the character hasn't changed a lot. We were suspicious the survey results would be similar to previous surveys. But I think the public outreach and engagement piece is really the most important. So our survey, meetings like tonight, we really want to get a lot of feedback from our community to make sure that this plan truly represents what our residents and community members want. So we had 248 responses, 225 of them were taken online, 23 were hard copies. 37% of the respondents were female and 60% were male, which I think is very unusual for surveys. They usually skew, I think, a little bit more towards the female side. The age demographics that you see align very closely with our demographics in the town. And one of the things that jumped out at me when I was reviewing section 3 over here of the census data is comparing the age demographics to previous decades in the town of Canadice. We very much have an aging community. The fastest growing segments of our population are the 65 and over and the 55 to 64. So that's going to present unique challenges for our community, right? Is when we recognize that we have an aging population, and how does our plan represent, you know, that aspect of our community. So resident status, we asked questions about, are you a full-time resident, a seasonal resident? How long have you lived in Canadice? Is your property on the lake, or do you have lake access? I think it's interesting to note about how long have you lived or owned property in Canadice on the upper right, that over 50% of our residents have lived here for more than 20 years. So we have a lot of longtime residents. People seem to come here and stay, and mostly full-time residents as well. So occupation. So, you know, with talking about our demographics, when we're talking that we have an aging population, so not every person who's taking the survey is the occupation question going to apply to them. But majority of people are retired or working away from home. It's much smaller, are hybrid or working from home. And as we'll kind of see later, as we talk about some of the other survey responses, internet access is really one of our things that kept coming up, and we had the map here for you tonight. So that can definitely be a barrier to hybrid or working from home. Pretty split over how far people are commuting. So it varies very widely. We know we're sort of centrally located to a number of large neighboring communities that are really those employment hubs. So what was the most influential reason for your decision to reside or own property in Canadice? As we go through these short answer questions, I sort of reviewed all of the short answers and put them into buckets. And I tried to organize them. The bullets towards the top are responses that we saw more often, whereas the bullets towards the bottom were things that we saw less often. So people move here because it's beautiful, it's peaceful, it's private, it's quiet. People like lake access, access to nature, recreation opportunities. I was really surprised to see how often family came up above affordability and low taxes. So people are moving here because they already have existing connections to our community. So if people are uncertain about remaining in Canadice, why would they move? Most people said they had no intention to move, or they left this answer blank, very overwhelmingly so. There were concerns about taxes, rising assessments. We know that's a hot button issue across Canadice as well as neighboring communities. Concerns about state government and policies and taxes at the state and county level was something that came up. Often age, health, physical mobility, or the ability to maintain their property was listed. As we've spoken about, our aging demographic is facing different concerns. Lack of internet access came up quite frequently. Water quality was definitely something that came up. And short-term rentals are a newer concern that we didn't see a lot on previous surveys. 10 years ago, they weren't existent in our community or not as prevalent. So that's something that we asked some additional details for on later questions. So the most pressing problem to people in our community, again, many people didn't answer or they left it blank. Many were concerned, again, with things at the state level, which is not necessarily within our control, and rising taxes, lack of reliable high-speed internet, that is popping up again. Development and loss of rural character is definitely a concern for our community members. Water quality, another issue that's really coming to the forefront in the survey. Drainage and flooding concerns. And there was quite a few comments that related to the disconnect between the different districts in our town. The Lake District has a very different character than other more rural areas in our town. Additional services, a lot answered that they didn't want any additional surveys or questions or comments that related to concerns about costs for additional surveys.
About what?
Costs for additional services. So one answer that did come up frequently was expanded services related to waste, recycling, and yard debris. I know I mentioned it to several people who were waiting. There is the opportunity to take an online survey related to solid waste planning in Ontario County for the next 10 years. Kate Crowley also is going to be representing our community on a stakeholder engagement meeting happening in a few weeks. So she also has a printout with some additional questions. So you are welcome to grab a sheet from Kate and send her some comments or take the survey online. Either way, there's a great opportunity to share additional details on that subject. Infrastructure is definitely a concern. Internet, water, sewer. We recognize that those are things that people want, but we definitely have financial and geographic barriers to some of those. Increased speed enforcement. Both of the county roads were noted as area of concern. Transportation options and senior activities. So those are both, again, relating to aging population. We have people that may have transportation concerns, doctor's appointments, things like that. Communication. So again, for me, this was a big, important topic. So currently, people are predominantly finding out what's happening in the town by the town website, word of mouth, and some from the Penny Saver and social media. So that's how they're currently finding information. When asked how they would prefer to find information, only 10% of people said that they wanted to find it on a website. Quite a few indicated that email is their preferred method. Some did say mailing. We recognize that mailing is sometimes cost prohibitive, but email is definitely something that is within our scope. Sorry. That's okay. Some of the other responses requested increased social media communication, and a town newsletter was also cited on a couple of comments. So environmental. The biggest concerns our residents have related to the environment, water quality, we chatted about that, logging and deforestation is a concern. Wind turbines and large solar farms are a concern that came up both on this question and some of our other short answer questions as well. We know that septic systems are a challenge in our community. If anybody had a chance to look at the areas of the town that are have difficult soils for septic systems, it's pretty much the whole town. Illegal dumping of waste, of course, definitely a concern. And then there were some concerns related to drainage about salt usage, and as that relates to water quality. So development, that's definitely something that is important to consider when you're looking at your comprehensive plan. It's a guiding document, like I said earlier, for our planning board, our zoning board, our town board. So residents want to see predominantly development occur slower or at the present rate, as it is currently occurring in Canadice. Overwhelmingly so, people want to see single family homes with some manufactured family homes. Short-term rentals, as I mentioned, we'd get into a little bit more detail on this. Short-term rentals are rentals of 30 days or less. These are things like Airbnb and VRBO. And whether the town should regulate short-term rentals. I was surprised this was as close as it was, but 53% of residents did say that it should be regulated, with the others split between no and no opinion. And when people were asked to weigh in their opinion on short-term rentals, it looks like about 30% are in favor of them, 30% think they should be limited in number, and then the rest were either against it or no opinion. So our next steps. So as I mentioned earlier, this is an existing plan that we are updating. We're not doing a major overhaul or a rewrite. So we are currently at the public engagement level. Our first public hearing is going to be August 11th. I was saying 12th. It is going to be August 11th. That will be at the regularly scheduled town board meeting at 7 o'clock. You are welcome to come and share additional feedback if you leave here today and think of something that you wish you had told us. Please feel free to participate in that as well. SEEKR is New York State's Environmental Quality Review Act. And that is a requirement by New York State when adopting a comprehensive plan. Ontario County is going to assist us with that, as well as review by the Ontario County Planning Board. Then the last steps will be a second public hearing. So the the plan will be finalized. At that point, we will have one more public hearing and then it will be adopted by the town board. So as I mentioned earlier, public engagement is really an important part of this process. And I hope that you all find this meaningful and are willing to share your opinions with us. I so appreciate you coming. We often have vacancies on our planning boards and our zoning boards. So if anybody is interested in participating even a little bit further, any one of our town board members who is here or any of our planning board members would be happy to chat with you about that. There are currently vacancies on both our planning board and I believe the zoning board as well, correct?
And deputy historian.
And deputy historian. Didn't you say you wanted another job, Rich? So yeah, so I hope that you feel empowered to participate, and I feel like there is so often misconceptions, especially about government at the local level, and it is really informed by our residents, and I think that's really important to many of our officials here in the town, and I hope it's okay to speak for them. And I just wanted to end, I pulled out some of the particular positive comments that jumped out at me from the survey. So thank you for everyone who took the time to participate in the survey, and especially those who left us some positive comments. It's always nice to end on a positive note. And again, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Questions? Eileen?
And any of the meetings, if anybody's not sure of how they operate or what they might be interested in, all of them are Zoom. So even if you can't make it here, town board, planning board, zoning board, your committee,
Yep.
all of them are you're capable of zooming in to attend.
Yes, absolutely. Agendas are posted ahead of time, and they all have the Zoom option. So if you aren't sure what a planning board does or a zoning board does, and you don't want to commit to joining them just quite yet, we definitely welcome you to come and observe a meeting. You don't just have to come if you're an applicant. Thanks for that, Eileen.
Please share these opportunities with your friends and family members, your children, your neighbors.
Any other questions about the comp plan?
So like, how much of the plan is involved with figuring out how much, is there costs associated with the adoption of the plan, and how much money is gonna be used towards certain things that are adopted in the plan? Is that part of it, or?
So it doesn't get into necessarily like the nitty gritty. It's not a budget document. It's more of a guidance document. So if we identify certain things are important and we think that they need to be implemented, it can definitely be part of the goals or the implementation strategy. Those are the sections we're going to be working on next. And often cost is discussed in those, right? If it's a large project, it may be mentioned potential grant sources, or acknowledging that if it's a larger project, it may need to be split up over a certain number of years. So it doesn't necessarily attach a specific dollar amount to it. But I think that it is important to understand that there are costs associated with projects.
You said we're not really overhauling the whole thing, but you're going to adopt a plan that is gonna have action, I would assume.
Yep.
So eventually it's gonna cost money.
It depends on what those specific, taking what those specific action items are.
Yeah.
And, if some of them are, a lot of them are related to communication, those aren't necessarily high cost projects. And some of it may be recommendation that the town work with, county or state organizations to help guide, if we put something in our plan that's a priority to our residents, even if it's not something we necessarily implement at the town level, it empowers our town supervisor to have some direction from our residents and to know when he is, or when they are, excuse me, when they are participating in meetings, they can confidently say, this is what my community wants, and I have this in writing. This is a priority to my community.
But nothing that we've done so far has any cost. Any highway or park or anything like that.
I did
So-
hear that they were talking about redoing 36 and 37.
Yeah, but that's
That's
not
not part of that.
No, that's.
Those are
I
county.
thought it was-
Yeah, that's right. That's
Those are
So,
county roads.
there's nothing that we're, in our plan so far, has any cost other than in a newsletter or something like that. And then
That's-
it's up to the town board what they want to do. It's like, oh,
I think something that you said earlier was that the plan provides guidance that can help prevent problems. So if you knew there was a drainage problem somewhere, for example, the plan could provide guidance and information to the town board to put into the capital improvement plan. Let's take care of the drainage here so that we don't end up with a flood. Yep. So it's kind of, may not spend money directly, but it shows there's a problem. It probably costs a little money to fix it, but there's steps that have to take before the money is approved and the plan goes forward, project goes forward.
And that's something too that happens during the budget process. And there's lots of public meetings related to the budget as well before that's adopted. So that's definitely an interesting time to learn about what specific projects are coming. The highway department has a 5-year plan. It's called a 284 agreement. So they make a plan about, this year we're going to replace this culvert and we're going to pave this road. Obviously, things happen. This year they're having to change their plan because of the damage on Johnson Hill Road that wasn't on the plan. So that's going to need to become a priority, and some of the other parts of the plan shift. So those are when those really specific granular dollar amounts are attached to a plan.
Okay, so, but it's not like grand vision plans of I would like to see more recreation in town, tennis courts, pickleball. I mean, there's no center for all this aging population. And there are a lot of active people around.
And
But that's not part of this.
that's
kind of-
great feedback too, if you want to fill out a post-it and
Been very
and we're recording this, so we can make note of that. And so maybe an action item is to expand recreation opportunities, and ways to do that are through shared service agreements. Maybe we partner with Richmond.
Yeah.
So there are ways to do things where the town isn't building expensive new facilities or taking on projects. Shared service agreements are a great opportunity to partner with other local towns to provide things to our residents, especially when we're talking about rural, like Canada.
I think I put that on surveys. You already have it.
Yeah. But it's good for us to hear those things again too, right? That's important to people.
I'm just curious what other people are thinking about, or they're all happy with what's here.
I remember reading something about additional recreation opportunities on the town hall property. And I thought that kind of intrigued me.
So that was one of the survey questions, if something like that should be developed. So that would be something that there would be a capital
Yeah,
cost
I didn't see
associated
like
with.
football field with lights for night games and all that stuff. But something a little more modest, even picnic facilities or horseshoe pits,
Town center in Canada, I should say something like that.
Yeah, right.
A very modest.
Well, and
So I
that's
don't have to go all the way to here house.
And that's something too that came up on when I was reviewing the previous plan, is that, our community is very unique. We don't have a specific community center. We don't have a main street. We don't have a commercial district. So developing ways that we have a community character and that we have this shared sense of community are a little bit harder for us. So one of the previous plan suggested things like a town newsletter, and maybe that would be another opportunity to bring our community together for that sort of shared sense of community would be additional ability. Another question?
Thank you. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
I'm sure everyone is aware of 200th birthday's coming up and they have a way to our candidates to get together. So 2030 is our bicentennial. So anyone that would like to be involved with that, feel free to contact town hall.
Wonderful. All right.
We will have a party. I just don't know how big it's gonna be, how many people will be involved. But I'll throw that out there.
Absolutely.
It used to be town picnics held up at Spencer Park.
Yes. Yes. That's the word.
Nice, wonderful. Well, again, thank you everybody for attending. I'll be up here if anybody has any additional questions.
We appreciate the input. Very good.